Connor Zilisch is leaving Trackhouse for Hendrick Motorsports after 2027. He'll be taking over the number 48 ride in 2028. He's going to be sponsored by Ally. But Denny Hamlin was asked what he makes of the move, and he gave the most efficient summary that I've seen anyone offer. That is what we're going to be talking about in today's video. Now, right off the bat, two things. Number one, Red Bull is not going with Connor at least in 2028. There is a contract issue there. Hendrick already has an energy sponsorship in place, and clearly they can't have a conflict of interest there. So we're going to have to wait and see what Red Bull does after that. Now, here's what Denny Hamlin had to say on his Actions Detrimental podcast. He said, that's great news for Rick Hendrick. He is going to get him years in. Trackhouse did all the development, paid all the money, and he's not going to get the best of them. Now, that is a damn bold take right there. That's the whole transaction in one sentence. From a driver who happens to be a car owner and therefore knows precisely what developing somebody cost. But the more interesting part is what he said about Connor himself, because Hamlin didn't accept the version where a talented kid was let down by his equipment. He assigned about half of it back to the driver and then walked through exactly what Zilisch did wrong in a specific wreck. What do I mean by that? I'm going to get to that. Now let's start with how he framed the deal for Hendrick. He said, I think that's a great buy low opportunity for Hendrick, and they took advantage, no question about it. When we talk about buy low, that's investment language, and it pointed to describe signing a 20-year-old kid who has had one of the worst seasons I can remember. And he's saying Hendrick moved at the moment Zilisch's value was really down because of that rookie season, and got a better price than they would have, say, if they wait a year later. Now, for Zilisch, he said, I think it's the best career move for Connor. I mean, you're talking about one of the top 3 to 4 organizations in the sport, and you're clearly struggling where you're at, end quote. So both sides win, right? That's his mentality. That's his belief. And it's just one of them wins with someone else's developmental money. Now, you want to talk about money? Let's talk about the part that isn't about money. Because Hamlin then refused to blame Trackhouse for the season. He said, I don't put all of his struggles on Trackhouse. I think he's responsible for at least half of his struggles, just due to inexperience. And then he went after a specific narrative. He said the narrative really got caught up with Connor early in the year, like, oh, bad luck, bad luck. A lot of those wrecks he were in were avoidable, just like at New Hampshire, by the way. And he just didn't avoid them, or he put himself in that spot that he shouldn't have, end quote. Now, that's a direct challenge to the way that Connor's season has been discussed. It's not misfortune. It's really positioning and him not understanding, okay, I need to just kind of get a rhythm going and then take it from there. And he also identified why. He said, it's not like he's got a ton of oval NASCAR racing experience, and these are some of the growing pains that you're going to get through, end quote. Now let's talk about coaching. The most useful section of this podcast where Hamlin breaks down the New Hampshire wreck, because it's a driver teaching rather than criticizing. There was and I forget who it was. I think it might have been Riley Herbst. Someone will correct me down in the comments area below. But in turn 3 and 4, there was a car that spun, and there's an onboard with Connor's spotter telling him, car high, go low, 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 low. And he just kept saying low, low, low. But this kid, I don't know if he locked it up. I don't know what he was exactly thinking. I know he's going fast. It's a split-second decision. It feels like forever, but it's only a few seconds. And he just goes up the racetrack and just directly smacks this car. And it's like, those are one of those things where you could have avoided that. And this is what Hamlin had to say. I understand it was a little bit. He had a little bit of a blind moment where the 3 car, I believe, was in front of him. So he sees the smoke. To me, I don't have to see the wreck to trust that a caution's coming out. So when I see the smoke, it's no different at super speedways. Right before the cars turn around backwards and get sideways when we're wrecking, there's going to be smoke. You should lift when you see the smoke, That's how you avoid it. You don't actually have to physically see a car spun right in front of you to say, oh, okay, there's a wreck. I'm going to slow down. The minute you see smoke, trust me, there's about to be a wreck. And this is your way to avoid it. Connor just didn't slow down enough and then got caught in his position of, I can't turn left now. I'm out of control, because once it gets up in the fourth lane, he's got all the marbles on his tires and he's chasing the car. I mean, there's not much you can say or do to justify it. Sometimes you just learn the hard way, end quote. I think that's a brilliant way of breaking this down. I think Denny is so good at breaking these down, and this is really the value that you get out of Denny Hamlin on this podcast. Now, there is a silver lining that he offered, because he didn't just leave it there. And this is the fairest thing that he said. If there's any year to have life lessons, I mean, he's got nothing to gain this year, right? He's just chalked this up to one of those lessons that's going to make you better in the long run, end quote. Now, that is genuinely a generous framing from Denny. A rookie season in a struggling car with no championship implications is the cheapest possible place to make expensive mistakes. And also, you're making a mistake at an organization in which you're about to leave. And he also floated a structural explanation. He said, in Xfinity, he's not racing in the dog pound. They're fighting for every spot, and maybe they're thinking, oh, well, when that smoke, when there's others lift, I'm just going to go through it, end quote. Different level, different instincts. In a lower series, driving through the smoke is how you gain positions. In Cup, it's how you end your day. 100%, I could not agree with this man anymore. He's spot on, and that does make sense. Now, Hamlin gave the clearest account anybody has actually happened in that detail. Trackhouse found him, developed into him, funded him, absorbed the rookie year, and now Hendrick gets the prime time real estate. That is 100% correct. There is nothing that you can dispute about that. The fact that they were not able to re-sign Connor, that's on Trackhouse. Now, that's easier said than done considering Hendrick's equipment and money. But I would also say that Trackhouse has a same leverage in terms of money. Justin Marks is phenomenal at raising money. I'm sure he could have got the money. Could he have competed with the amount of resources that Hendrick has, or the connections that Hendrick has, or the equipment that Hendrick has? Of course not. But at the same time, you had this guy in-house. And I understand he ran for JRM, but he was under contract with Trackhouse. There was a real possibility that Trackhouse could have kept him, and ultimately did not. And so there's the blame.